The day started like any other, calm and sunny, with people going about their routines without expecting anything unusual. But that calm was about to be broken in a way no one in the small town could have imagined. The Rock and John Cena had arrived for a charity event, and the excitement in the air was almost tangible. People had lined up early in the morning, eager for a chance to see their favorite wrestlers up close. Children were bouncing with energy, waving homemade posters, while parents held their phones high trying to capture every moment. The event was supposed to be low-key, a simple meet and greet combined with some performances and charity auctions. The Rock and John Cena had agreed to attend to support a local cause, and both were in good spirits, ready to interact with the fans. They had been touring for weeks, and even though they were used to large crowds, this small-town event had a charm all its own. It was intimate, friendly, and warm. A perfect opportunity to connect with people in a real way. But across the parking lot, a group of bikers had gathered, drawing their own kind of attention. They were loud, imposing, and carried an aura of mischief. Everyone knew them in town. They weren't dangerous in a criminal sense, but they had a reputation for showing up unexpectedly and making a scene. Today they had spotted the Rock and Cena, and a mischievous spark lit their eyes. They didn't come for charity, and they certainly didn't come to be polite. Their intention was clear. They wanted to stir things up, to make themselves noticed, and to embarrass the stars if they could. The bikers started revving their motorcycles one after another. The noise was deafening, engines roaring in a chorus that echoed across the empty streets leading to the event. Fans and locals stopped to look, curious about the sudden chaos. Some took a step back, uncertain what might happen next, while others pulled out their phones, anticipating a spectacle. The Rock and Cena noticed the motorcycles almost immediately. At first, they thought it might just be a group of fans arriving in style, but it quickly became clear that this wasn't a friendly gesture. The bikers began circling near the entrance of the event, deliberately positioning themselves to block the path. The largest of the group leaned back on his bike and shouted something, a mocking comment about Cena's stature, his voice carrying over the roar of the engines. The fans, unsure how to react, murmured among themselves. A few laughed nervously, unsure if it was part of the show, while others held their breath, sensing tension. The Rock took a deep breath and tried to ease the situation. He smiled at the crowd and made a few light-hearted comments, waving his hands to calm everyone. Cena joined him, raising his arms and nodding at the audience, trying to show that there was no need for panic. They knew that showing fear or anger would only give the bikers exactly what they wanted. Maintaining composure was key. Despite their calm, the bikers weren't done. They began performing exaggerated stunts on their motorcycles, spinning their wheels and leaning dangerously close to the crowd. One biker even tried to mimic a wrestling pose, shouting as if challenging the wrestlers. The Rock and Cena watched carefully, aware that any sudden move could escalate the situation. But they also knew that they had fans watching, and they didn't want the event to be ruined. The crowd's attention began to split between the wrestlers and the bikers. Some people shouted encouragement for the wrestlers, while others were captivated by the audacity of the bikers' display. Cameras clicked and recorded every moment. Within minutes, videos of the scene were being shared online, showing the Rock and Cena standing tall while the bikers made a dramatic entrance. It was an unexpected mix of intimidation and entertainment, a clash of worlds that no one had predicted. The Rock leaned slightly toward Cena, speaking quietly but with determination. "Let's keep it cool," he said. "We're here for the fans, and we're not letting this ruin their day." Cena nodded, his jaw set, showing a mixture of focus and calm. They were pros at handling public attention, but even they had to admit this was unusual. A biker gang trying to embarrass them in front of an entire town was not something they had rehearsed for. One of the bikers, clearly the leader, revved his engine harder, trying to draw attention. He made a show of waving his arms, pointing at Cena and the Rock in a mocking manner. It wasn't violent, but it was provocative. People in the crowd whispered among themselves, some cheering quietly for the wrestlers, others giggling at the bikers' antics. The atmosphere had shifted from cheerful excitement to tense anticipation. Despite the challenge, the wrestlers stayed calm. The Rock took a step forward, his presence commanding, and raised his voice so the audience could hear. "Looks like we have some competition today," he joked, his tone friendly but firm. Cena added with a smile, "I hope you guys are ready. because we don't back down that easily. Their humor helped to ease the tension, reminding the crowd that even in a tricky situation, the wrestlers were in control. The bikers paused for a moment, seemingly surprised by the reaction. They had expected fear, or at least hesitation, but instead they were met with confidence and wit. The audience began to relax slightly, sensing that the wrestlers were not intimidated. A few people laughed aloud at the jokes, clapping and cheering to show support. The energy in the crowd started to shift. What had begun as a potential embarrassment was slowly turning into a moment of entertainment. Still, the bikers were determined to make their presence known. They rode closer, engines roaring, performing small stunts and exaggerating their movements. They waved at the crowd, shouting jokes and trying to mimic wrestling poses. The Rock and Cena had to carefully time their responses, moving with purpose while keeping the event safe. They interacted with the audience, pointing at fans, giving thumbs up and smiling, ensuring that the people attending felt included rather than scared. The cameras continued to capture everything. Social media was alive with reactions. Comments ranged from amusement to amazement. Many viewers admired the wrestlers' ability to remain composed under pressure. Others were simply entertained by the unexpected mix of celebrities and bikers creating a live spectacle. Within minutes, the scene had become a trending topic online, proving that even a small-town event could turn into a viral moment when unpredictability struck. Throughout it all, The Rock and Cena remained focused on the fans. They knew that people had come to see them, to enjoy a positive experience, and they didn't want anyone to leave disappointed. By maintaining their calm, they were subtly teaching a lesson about confidence, patience, and handling difficult situations with humor and poise. The bikers, on the other hand, were enjoying the chaos they were causing. But there was something unexpected happening too. As the wrestlers continued to engage the crowd with jokes and friendly gestures, the bikers began to notice the skill and composure it took to stand their ground without escalating tension. They weren't used to seeing people respond in such a way to provocation. The initial intention to embarrass was slowly losing its impact, replaced by a mix of respect and curiosity. Minutes passed, feeling longer than they actually were. The bikers had made their statement, but they were also witnessing something they hadn't anticipated. The Rock and Cena were not just famous faces. They were performers and leaders who could turn any situation into an opportunity to connect with people. The crowd's cheers grew louder, their support unwavering, as if the energy of the entire audience was saying, "We're with them." Finally, after several minutes of this public showdown, the bikers eased back slightly, revving their engines one last time before forming a small cluster. It wasn't defeat, but it was a pause. The Rock and Cena smiled at the audience, waving and gesturing that everything was fine. The fans clapped, cheered, and some laughed, realizing that what could have been an embarrassing moment had turned into a unique and thrilling experience. The wrestlers exchanged a glance. They knew this was only the beginning of an unusual encounter, but for now, they had managed to maintain control, entertain the audience, and handle an unpredictable situation with grace. The bikers had made a bold entrance, but The Rock and Cena had proven that composure, humor, and confidence could turn tension into triumph. The crowd, still buzzing from the spectacle, continued to cheer. Cameras flashed, phones recorded, and conversations among fans were filled with excitement. People couldn't stop talking about the unexpected encounter, knowing they had witnessed something memorable. It wasn't just about the stunts or the bikes. It was about seeing two larger-than-life figures handle unpredictability with skill, and in a way that left everyone feeling inspired. By the time the event officially began, the initial shock of the bikers' antics had passed. The wrestlers stepped into their roles for the day, greeting fans, taking pictures, and performing small stunts and demonstrations. The tension had dissipated, replaced by energy, laughter, and excitement. Everyone knew they had witnessed a moment that would be talked about for years to come. A moment where courage and composure shone through in the face of unexpected challenges. The atmosphere at the event had shifted dramatically since the bikers arrived. What had begun as a cheerful, calm gathering of fans and wrestlers had turned into an unexpected spectacle. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, some cheering for The Rock and John Cena, and others more curious about the audacity of the bikers. It was a strange mix of tension, entertainment, and unpredictability. Everyone could feel it. Something big was happening and no one could look away. The Rock and Cena knew they had to handle this situation carefully. They couldn't let the bikers' antics ruin the event, but they also didn't want to confront them aggressively. That approach would only escalate the tension. Instead, they decided to rely on what they knew best: charm, humor, and showmanship. They understood that a calm, confident response could turn the moment from embarrassment into something memorable. The bikers continued their stunts, circling their motorcycles near the stage, revving engines and performing loud, exaggerated moves. One biker even stood on the seat of his bike for a few seconds, arms raised, as if he were claiming victory over the entire crowd. Some fans laughed nervously, unsure whether this was part of the event or a challenge to the wrestlers. Others whispered to each other, wondering how the situation would unfold. The Rock stepped forward, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "All right, everyone. Looks like we've got some competition today," he said with a grin, his tone playful but confident. Cena added, "I hope you guys are ready to bring your best. We're not going to let anyone steal the spotlight." Their words were calm, humorous, and full of authority. They didn't sound angry, and that was exactly the point. Their confidence sent a message to both the bikers and the audience. They were in control. For a moment, the bikers paused, as if surprised by the response. They had expected fear or hesitation, but instead they were met with humor and composure. The crowd began to react differently, cheering for the wrestlers while watching the bikers with renewed interest. The energy in the air shifted again. What could have been a tense, embarrassing moment was turning into an impromptu performance. As the bikers attempted to perform more stunts, the Rock and Cena didn't back down. They engaged with the audience, clapping, waving, and making jokes that drew laughter. They even encouraged fans to cheer for them, turning the crowd into participants in the unfolding spectacle. Every move, every word was calculated to maintain control while keeping the energy high. It was a display of charisma, courage, and skill all at once. The bikers, meanwhile, began to realize that the wrestlers were not only unshakable, but also incredibly skilled at entertaining people. They had come to embarrass them, to steal the spotlight, but their plan was not working the way they expected. The Rock and Cena's calm and confident handling of the situation was actually drawing more attention from the audience than the bikers' antics ever had. It was a quiet reversal, one that the bikers noticed even if they didn't admit it right away. A few bikers tried to get more daring. One did a wheelie that went on longer than intended, losing a bit of control but quickly regaining balance. The Rock and Cena watched carefully, staying ready to step in if necessary. They weren't trying to outdo the bikers in dangerous stunts, but they were keeping a keen eye on everything, ensuring that safety remained a priority. Fans cheered both for the bikers' risky maneuvers and for the wrestlers' composed response. The mix of excitement and tension made the scene unforgettable. As the event progressed, The Rock took a moment to speak directly to the bikers in a friendly, yet commanding tone. "You guys are good with your bikes, no doubt," he said. "But remember, this is about the fans today. Let's make this fun for everyone, yeah?" Cena nodded, adding, "We're all here for a good time, not trouble. Let's turn this into a show that people will remember for the right reasons." The words were simple, but they carried weight. It was a gentle reminder to the bikers that respect and fun could coexist with daring antics. For a while, the bikers hesitated. They weren't used to being challenged with kindness and calm authority at the same time. Most of the time, people either ignored them or reacted with anger, which often escalated situations. Here, however, they were confronted with humor, confidence, and a willingness to engage on equal terms. It was unexpected, and it began to shift their attitude. Slowly, some of the bikers' stunts became less about mockery and more about showing skill and daring, almost like they were trying to impress the wrestlers now. The crowd could feel the change as well. What had started as an embarrassing scenario for The Rock and Cena now had the audience fully engaged in a playful back and forth. Fans cheered louder, laughed more, and felt a part of the unfolding story. Some shouted encouragement at the bikers, others at the wrestlers, creating a lively, participatory atmosphere. It was chaotic, yes, but in a way that drew people closer together rather than driving them apart. Amidst the chaos, The Rock noticed a young boy in the front row holding a homemade poster. The boy's eyes were wide with excitement, and he was waving frantically to get the wrestler's attention. The Rock smiled, waved back, and encouraged him to stay close. Cena followed suit, pointing to the boy and giving him a thumbs up. It was a small gesture, but it reminded the audience that Despite the bikers' disruptive behavior, the focus was still on connection, kindness, and shared experience. The bikers, now realizing that their initial attempt to humiliate was failing, tried to step up their game. One rode in a sharp circle around the stage. Another performed a dramatic stop, kicking up dust and gravel. But the energy had shifted. The wrestlers had won the respect of the audience and even some of the bikers without lifting a hand aggressively. Every action by the bikers was now being met with playful banter and engagement from the Rock and Cena, which only drew more laughter and applause from the crowd. Social media was alive with the moment. Fans posting videos and photos were sharing clips of the Rock and Cena, standing calm, smiling, joking, and interacting with both the audience and the bikers. Comments poured in, praising the wrestlers' ability to handle the situation with grace and humor. Some viewers joked about the unexpected confrontation, while others highlighted the lesson it was teaching. Composure and confidence in the face of provocation are far more powerful than anger. The bikers seemed to sense that their plan was no longer effective, yet they weren't ready to give up entirely. They slowed their movements slightly, making more calculated stunts rather than reckless ones. The Rock and Cena encouraged the crowd to cheer for everyone, not just the wrestlers, creating a sense of shared participation. Fans clapped for daring stunts, for clever jokes, for interaction, and for the unexpected way the event had transformed. The energy in the air was electric, charged with excitement, laughter, and admiration. One of the bikers approached the edge of the stage trying a bold stunt, but The Rock raised a hand with a smile and said, "Careful. We don't want anyone getting hurt today." Cena chimed in, "Yeah, let's keep it fun, not dangerous." The biker nodded, adjusting his approach, and the stunt continued without incident. Even in moments of potential risk, the wrestler's calm presence kept the situation controlled. It was a subtle demonstration of leadership, bravery, and foresight, all without any aggression. Minutes passed, and the event continued with this unusual rhythm. The bikers performing stunts, the Rock and Cena responding with humor and engagement, and the audience caught in the middle, cheering, laughing, and fully immersed. The potential embarrassment had been transformed into entertainment, with every participant, wrestlers, bikers, and fans, playing a role in the unfolding story. By the time the bikers finally paused, there was a sense of understanding in the air. No one had lost face, no one had been hurt, and the crowd was buzzing with excitement and appreciation. The wrestlers had shown that confidence, composure, and humor could turn even a potentially humiliating moment into a shared, positive experience. The Rock and Cena smiled at each other briefly, a silent acknowledgement that they had navigated the challenge successfully. The bikers, meanwhile, exchanged looks among themselves, realizing that their attempt to embarrass the wrestlers had not gone as planned. Instead, it had become a showcase of skill, charisma, and the unexpected power of handling difficult situations with grace. As the event officially resumed, the atmosphere was transformed. The crowd was more energized than ever, laughing and cheering for every interaction, every stunt, and every joke. Fans took pictures, recorded videos, and shared stories with friends about the unusual spectacle they had witnessed. The Rock and Cena continued to engage with everyone, taking the energy and turning it into a positive, memorable experience. By the end of this part of the event, one thing was clear. What had started as a moment of potential embarrassment had become a story of confidence, quick thinking, and human connection. The wrestlers had handled it masterfully, showing that even in unpredictable situations, calmness, humor, and engagement could turn any challenge into an opportunity to inspire and entertain. The bikers had paused for a moment, seemingly catching their breath after all the stunts and attention-seeking maneuvers. For a brief second, it looked like the tension might ease, but The Rock and John Cena knew this pause was only temporary. They had handled the first wave of disruption, but now it was time to turn the situation completely in their favor. It wasn't just about stopping the embarrassment. It was about taking control, entertaining the crowd, and showing the bikers that confidence and composure were stronger than chaos. The Rock stepped forward, his voice carrying over the hum of engines and murmurs from the crowd. "You know," he began, smiling broadly, "it looks like we have a challenge on our hands, but maybe we can make it fun. Who's up for a little friendly competition?" His words were casual, light, and teasing. He wasn't commanding or threatening. He was inviting. Cena joined in immediately, adding, "Yeah, Let's see who's got the best moves today. And don't worry, nobody's going to get hurt, it's all in good fun." The bikers exchanged glances, clearly taken aback. They had expected resistance or fear, not humor and confidence. The pause gave the crowd a moment to catch their breath as well. Whispers ran through the audience. Were the wrestlers actually challenging the bikers? Some fans laughed out loud at the idea, delighted by the twist in the story. What had started as a tense, embarrassing situation was now turning into a playful showdown. One of the bikers, slightly taller and broader than the others, leaned on his motorcycle and shouted, "All right, fine. What do you want us to do?" He sounded skeptical, but there was a spark of curiosity in his eyes. The Rock grinned, walking a little closer and pointing toward the stage. "Simple," he said. "Let's see who can put on the best show. You do your stunts, we'll do ours. The crowd will decide who's more entertaining. Deal?" The bikers hesitated. They were used to people either ignoring them or reacting angrily. But being invited to compete with two world-famous wrestlers was something they hadn't expected. After a few seconds of quiet discussion among themselves, a few of the bikers nodded. It wasn't acceptance, it was cautious curiosity. But it was enough to change the momentum of the moment. The Rock and Cena immediately engaged the crowd, encouraging everyone to cheer for both sides. "This is going to be fun, everyone," Cena shouted. "Cheer for the bikers, cheer for us, but most importantly, enjoy yourselves." The fans responded enthusiastically, clapping, shouting, and laughing. The energy in the air shifted completely. What could have been embarrassing had now transformed into a live show, interactive and exciting for everyone watching. The first stunt came from one of the bikers, who executed a daring wheelie across the stage area. The crowd gasped, then cheered loudly. The Rock and Cena clapped and cheered as well, showing genuine appreciation. It wasn't just about winning or losing, it was about making the moment entertaining. The bikers, seeing the positive response, became more confident. Their stunts grew more creative and their movements sharper. It was clear that they were enjoying themselves now, even as they realized that their attempt to embarrass the wrestlers had backfired. The Rock and Cena decided it was their turn. They weren't going to ride motorcycles, but they had something else. Wrestling-inspired stunts, playful choreography, and larger-than-life charisma. The Rock ran forward, leaping in a dramatic move that drew cheers and laughter. Cena followed with a playful mock wrestling stance, pretending to dodge invisible attacks while encouraging fans to cheer for every move. Their energy was infectious, and the audience responded with applause, laughter, and chants. The bikers watched closely. They had initially thought this would be easy, mocking two wrestlers in front of a crowd, but now they were being entertained and secretly impressed. The Rock and Cena were not just standing there. They were performing, interacting with the fans, and creating moments that the bikers themselves hadn't anticipated. It was a subtle shift in power. Respect was starting to form, even in the midst of playful competition. As the friendly showdown continued, the wrestlers decided to raise the stakes slightly. The Rock called out, "All right, who can do the craziest move without getting hurt?" Cena added, "And don't worry, we'll show you how it's done too." With that, the wrestlers performed a series of safe but visually impressive stunts, using exaggerated movements, theatrical gestures, and quick, playful wrestling maneuvers. The audience erupted with laughter and cheers. Fully engaged in the interactive spectacle, the bikers, feeling the pressure of the growing excitement, decided to respond with a few daring maneuvers of their own. One biker performed a sharp spin on his motorcycle, kicking up dust, while another executed a brief high-speed zigzag that left the crowd gasping. Each stunt drew applause from the audience, but it also drew nods of approval from The Rock and Cena. They were showing respect while still holding the spotlight, balancing admiration and entertainment seamlessly. Even the youngest fans in the audience were fully invested. Children were clapping, pointing, and laughing, fully aware that they were witnessing something unusual but thrilling. Parents smiled as they watched their children react with excitement. Everyone in the crowd could feel the uniqueness of the moment. No one had expected a small-town event to turn into a playful showdown between wrestlers and bikers. And yet here they were, witnessing it firsthand. The Rock and Cena continued to engage the bikers directly. "You guys are good," The Rock said, raising his hand in a gesture of acknowledgement. "But can you keep up with us in a little dance-off?" Cena laughed and added, "Yeah, don't worry, it's not serious. Just show us what you got." The bikers exchanged confused looks. unsure whether to take the offer seriously. But the crowd shouted encouragement, and slowly, a few bikers decided to give it a try. What followed was unexpected. The bikers performed playful, exaggerated movements, mimicking wrestling poses and responding to the audience's cheers. The Rock and Cena mirrored them, making exaggerated gestures and playful stunts of their own. It wasn't about competition anymore, it was about shared entertainment, mutual respect, and turning an embarrassing moment into a spectacle everyone could enjoy. The audience cheered, laughed, and recorded every moment, knowing they were witnessing something truly rare and unforgettable. The energy in the air had changed completely. What had started as tension and embarrassment had turned into collaboration, performance, and amusement. The bikers, who had initially sought to humiliate the wrestlers, now found themselves genuinely impressed by their skill, charisma, and ability to command attention without aggression. Respect was forming, quietly but clearly, in the eyes of those who had come to disrupt the event. Minutes passed, and the playful interactions continued. The Rock and Cena made sure to keep the energy positive, never allowing the bikers to feel attacked but still maintaining control. Every movement was exaggerated, every gesture playful, every moment engaging the crowd. The fans were thrilled, their cheers growing louder, their laughter ringing out. Even the most skeptical onlookers couldn't deny the unique spectacle unfolding before them. At one point, The Rock stepped closer to the bikers, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You guys came here to challenge us," he said with a grin. "But now we're all part of the same show. Let's make this fun, safe, and memorable for everyone, deal?" Cena added, "It's not about who wins or loses, it's about making sure the crowd has the best experience ever." The bikers nodded slowly, beginning to understand the shift in dynamics. What had been a confrontation had become collaboration. Even social media picked up the transformation. Videos posted online showed The Rock and Cena interacting with the bikers, performing stunts and entertaining the crowd. Comments poured in from viewers amazed at the wrestlers' ability to turn a potentially embarrassing situation into something inspiring and fun. Fans shared clips widely, praising the wrestlers' humor, composure, and creativity. It was a perfect example of handling unexpected challenges with skill and charm. The bikers, now more relaxed, began to show subtle signs of respect. Their stunts became more coordinated, and their gestures toward the wrestlers were less mocking and more playful. Even in the midst of chaos, there was a sense of admiration forming. The Rock and Cena had not only entertained the audience, but had also quietly earned the respect of a group known for being bold and unpredictable. The crowd continued to cheer, fully engaged in the back-and-forth performance. Children clapped and laughed, adults cheered and recorded, and everyone present felt a part of the story unfolding in front of them. The initial embarrassment had been replaced by joy, excitement, and shared laughter. It was no longer a story of confrontation. It was a story of connection, courage, and turning unexpected situations into opportunities for fun. By the end of this part of the event, The Rock and Cena had fully taken control of the situation. The bikers had been invited into a playful competition. The audience was fully entertained, and the energy in the air was electric. What could have been a moment of humiliation had been transformed into a showcase of skill, confidence, and human connection. The wrestlers shared a brief glance, silently acknowledging their success. They had turned the embarrassment into an opportunity to shine, to teach, and to entertain. The bikers, meanwhile, had discovered that admiration and respect could emerge from the most unexpected places. The event continued, now with everyone, including the bikers, participating in a story that would be remembered long after the day ended. The energy in the air had shifted completely. What had started as tension and potential embarrassment had transformed into a lively, playful showdown. The Rock and John Cena had successfully turned the tables, but now the next challenge was even bigger, earning genuine respect from the bikers. The bikers had initially come with the intent to intimidate, to show that they could steal the spotlight in front of the crowd. But as the stunts and playful interactions continued, something unexpected was happening. The Rock and Cena could feel it too. They knew that respect could not just be demanded, it had to be earned. They had already entertained the crowd, engaged the bikers, and maintained control. But they wanted this moment to be more than just a fleeting spectacle. They wanted the bikers to understand that strength, confidence, and humor could coexist. that composure and courage could turn even challenging situations into positive experiences. The bikers, still performing small stunts, began to show subtle signs of appreciation. A few exchanged glances as if silently acknowledging that the Rock and Cena were not just skilled entertainers, they were also leaders in their own right. The audience noticed this shift as well. Murmurs of excitement ran through the crowd, laughter and cheers growing louder as people realized that the confrontation had transformed into a shared experience. The Rock decided to address the bikers directly, his voice loud enough for the crowd to hear but calm and respectful. "You guys are impressive," he said, pointing toward their motorcycles. "It takes skill to do what you just did, and we respect that. But there's something more important than showing off. It's how you carry yourself, how you treat the people around you, and how you handle challenges." "That's real strength," Cena added with a grin. "We all want to have fun, right? But fun doesn't mean chaos. Fun means showing your best while keeping everyone safe and happy. That's how you really earn respect, not by scaring people, but by inspiring them." Their words were simple but powerful, and they resonated not just with the bikers, but with everyone watching. For a moment, the bikers were silent. They were used to being loud, to making themselves noticed through sheer audacity, but now they were being confronted not with anger but with words that carried weight and insight. Some of the younger bikers nodded. Others adjusted their helmets as if reflecting on what was being said. It was a subtle but noticeable change in attitude. The audience sensed the transformation too. Cheering and laughter continued, but there was a new undertone of admiration. People were not just entertained. They were witnessing a moment of connection between worlds that rarely intersected. Fans whispered to each other, commenting on how unusual and inspiring the interaction had become. Cameras flashed, phones recorded, and social media buzzed with live updates. Videos were already being shared, showing not just the stunts, but the respect-building conversation happening in real time. The bikers, now more relaxed, attempted a few stunts with a slightly different energy. Their movements were confident, but there was less showboating and more precision. It was clear they were beginning to appreciate the challenge, not as a battle to humiliate, but as an opportunity to impress and engage. The Rock and Cena encouraged them with claps, cheers, and playful gestures, showing that admiration and recognition could coexist with playful competition. The wrestlers then decided to elevate the friendly competition. The Rock called out, "All right, let's see something creative. Show us your best, something that makes everyone laugh or gasp." Cena joined. "Yeah, don't hold back, but keep it fun. We want to see what you've got." The bikers, motivated by the challenge and encouraged by the respect they were being shown, performed more elaborate stunts, weaving their motorcycles around the stage area with precision and flair. The crowd erupted with excitement. People cheered loudly for every maneuver, clapped for daring stunts, and laughed at playful gestures. Children jumped in their seats, pointing and laughing, while parents smiled at the spectacle unfolding before them. The energy was contagious, spreading through the audience like wildfire. For everyone present, the event had become something unforgettable, a shared story of courage, respect, and unexpected connection. As the playful showdown continued, the Rock and Cena interacted more directly with the bikers. They performed wrestling-inspired moves, exaggerated poses, and humorous stunts, keeping the mood light and entertaining. The bikers responded in kind, matching some gestures, exaggerating others, and laughing along with the audience. What could have been a confrontation had turned into a synchronized performance, a back-and-forth exchange that entertained everyone and built genuine respect. The Rock leaned in slightly, addressing both the bikers and the audience. "See, this is what it's about," he said. "It's not about scaring people or trying to be the loudest. It's about skill, courage, and having fun without hurting anyone. That's what real respect looks like." Cena nodded, adding, "And it's also about connection. Look around, everyone here is part of this story. We're all sharing this moment together. That's more important than winning or losing." The bikers, hearing this, began to nod more earnestly. Their stunts became more coordinated and playful, clearly showing that they were starting to see the wrestlers not as targets to embarrass, but as peers to impress. They began exchanging gestures of acknowledgement, like tipping helmets or raising hands, small signs that reflected a growing admiration. The audience noticed these subtle cues and cheered even louder, sensing that a real bond was forming. Social media continued to capture every moment. Clips of the Rock and Cena interacting with the bikers were shared widely, with viewers commenting on the transformation from potential embarrassment to mutual respect. Many fans praised the wrestlers for their calmness, humor, and ability to inspire through action rather than confrontation. Others highlighted the bikers' change in attitude, noting how they had gone from attempting to humiliate to genuinely engaging in a positive way. The bikers were now fully participating, performing stunts with creativity, precision, and flair. The Rock and Cena encouraged them, laughed with them, and playfully competed with them, keeping the audience fully engaged. Every movement, every gesture, and every interaction reinforced the lesson that confidence, composure, and respect could transform even tense situations into moments of connection and celebration. The crowd's energy reached a new high. Fans shouted encouragement for both the wrestlers and the bikers, clapped for daring stunts, and laughed at playful antics. Children waved posters, mimicked stunts, and cheered loudly. Parents smiled and recorded videos, knowing that this was a moment worth remembering. The event had shifted from being a potentially embarrassing spectacle into a shared experience that left everyone smiling and inspired. The Rock and Cena, seeing the transformation, decided to highlight the bikers' skill and courage. "You guys really stepped up," The Rock said, smiling broadly. "Not just with your stunts, but with how you handled yourselves. That's what respect is all about." Cena added, "It's not about trying to win or be the loudest. It's about doing your best and enjoying the moment. That's something everyone here can learn from." The bikers, clearly proud, nodded and raised their hands in acknowledgement. Some even clapped for the wrestlers, a gesture that symbolized mutual admiration. It was a moment of triumph, not just for the wrestlers but for everyone present. What had begun as an attempt to embarrass had become a lesson in confidence, respect, and the power of human connection. As the event continued, the energy remained high. The Rock and Cena moved through the crowd, engaging with fans, posing for pictures, and performing small stunts. The bikers, now fully part of the experience, interacted with the audience, showing off their skills in a safe and entertaining way. Everyone was laughing, cheering, and sharing in a moment that none of them would forget. The event became more than just a meet and greet or a stunt performance. It had evolved into a story of transformation. The bikers had learned the value of respect. The audience had witnessed courage and composure, and the wrestlers had demonstrated how humor, confidence, and engagement could turn any situation into a positive experience. Everyone had played a part, and the result was a shared memory that would last long after the event ended. By the end of this part of the event, it was clear that the wrestlers had earned the bikers' respect. The initial embarrassment was completely gone. In its place was admiration, laughter, and a sense of unity. The Rock and Cena had shown that strength wasn't about intimidation. It was about confidence, composure, and the ability to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. As the bikers rode off later, waving to the crowd and tipping their helmets, there was a sense of camaraderie in the air. The audience clapped and cheered, the wrestlers waved and smiled, and everyone left with a story that felt larger than the event itself. What had started as an attempt to embarrass had turned into a powerful lesson about respect, courage, and the unexpected ways people can connect when they choose to rise above conflict. The final part of the day had arrived, and the atmosphere at the event was unlike anything anyone had expected. What had started as a routine charity gathering had transformed into a story of courage, humor, and unexpected connection. The Rock and John Cena had successfully navigated the initial challenge posed by the bikers, turning tension into entertainment, and now the moment had reached its climax. It was time for the grand finale, the part that would leave everyone talking long after the day ended.